um, earlier today, actually, is that I think a little while ago we were talking about how people try to act like Ruby is all super dark, and it's like, no, there's a lot of like Disney movies and kids movies that are way darker. I was thinking Finding Nemo in like the first few in like
Yeah,
its first minutes is darker than anything Ruby has done. Like it does a that beginning is dark as fuck.
Dark is overrated.
It's just nature.
And like
it's nature.
It was like the beginning, but it,
Like, if a Ruby volume started out like that with just a Grim literally slaughtering a group of people like that, like the beginning of Finding Nemo,
yeah, like a bunch of kids and stuff like that.
That would be freaking awesome. It'd be terrible, but it'd be awesome to watch. Like,
anyway, so here's my point about.
That was just something I was thinking, but sorry.
So here's my point about Black Panther being the equivalent of Frozen. So when Frozen came out, it got ludicrous amounts of praise, and most of it very well deserved. I think it was a very solid movie.
Yeah, it's not as bad as people say it is nowadays. Yeah.
And the thing is that it got so much praise so quickly that there was almost that like not quite instant but really quick backlash calling it overrated, overhyped, whatever. And I see the same thing going on with Black Panther. This is a different situation than with The Last Jedi because The Last Jedi had serious functional problems that a lot of the people praising it tended to ignore. And that's the stuff that Star Wars fans, particularly prequel apologists like myself, kind of latched onto. Because I think like the big flaws The Last Jedi has are flaws that were not in the prequels. Stuff that the prequels actually did very well. And
I like the swordplay.
And that's stuff that we covered in our Last Jedi podcast.
Yep.
With the subplots, the side quests, like the side quests in the prequels were actually very well done, or like the individual what's the word, execution may vary, but the idea of those side quests and what they were supposed to do from a functional storytelling level were fine. You cannot say the same thing about the Canto Bite stuff in Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So the flaws in Black Panther are very minor, very nitpicky, very like, oh, the CGI looks kind of awful sometimes. Yeah. Oh, the fight choreography is just kind of lifeless now. They're having a hard.
No, it wasn't for this one.
They've been having a hard time with fight scenes ever since Civil War. I think they outdid themselves with Civil War, to be perfectly honest. Between the airport fight,
a pretty good job, like with unique fight styles with like African culture and whatnot.
Dude, remember that first action scene? It was all jump cuts and shaky cam. Like there wasn't a solid, there wasn't a solid second in that first action scene. I was getting obnoxious. I was like, I was.
I need to go back and rewatch it.
I was when I was praying that like I really hope.
The thing is
that
like, I watched the
that
movie
this
first
isn't
time around. I didn't really want to
like action.
I wanted to enjoy the film as a film. I didn't really pay too much attention to all that stuff for the first viewing. Like I need to go view it again.
And I'm not gonna spoil it for the people here who haven't seen it yet. But the final fight does leave a lot to be desired. I think you could have dealt. Honestly, I think you could have dealt with a little more talking during the fight scene. Like, I know there's a ludicrous amount of talking in Black Panther, and way more than any of the other, like, individual Marvel movies.
Like, when they go into that place for the final fight, it's just like, immediately, like, I was like, yes, I know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think...
But in the best possible way, like, come on, how are they gonna use this? They have to use this.
I think that's somehow. I think that is the problem with
They didn't use it the way I think they would.
They used it. They used it exactly how I thought they would. That's the problem with Chekhov's gun, which is something we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
If a gun is on stage, it has to go off.
Yeah, the MCU
Although
really
well,
the MCU movies really follow that like hard.
yeah.
But
Like
the thing
they
is,
won't
is
even
like
let
this wasn't even a Chekhov's gun that I thought that was gonna happen. Like, oh,
I mean,
oh,
they won't even let Easter eggs go unattended. Like there's throwaway lines that are supposed to be like tee hee Easter egg that end up actually coming into play in the bigger plots. Like
Got you.
yeah. Like I'm just like I just know that somewhere down the line they're gonna have like Beta Ray Bill, and he's gonna and part of his backstory is gonna be that he was on the Gladiator planet from Thor Ragnarok. And that's gonna actually tie in with his
I mean,
motivation.
considering Getaway Bill's head looks like it's in one of the
It totally
Warriors.
is, and Beta Ray Bill is from he's not from that storyline, but he was in the Planet Hulk storyline.
Mm-hmm.
He was on that planet.
Like you saw Beta Ray Bill's head in like one of the sculptures on the building.
Yeah, and he's also I think you could also see him in the background of the collector scene from it's either Thor: The Dark World or Guardians of the Galaxy, possibly both.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Is that the one where you can actually see him? Because the collector's in both movies.
Yeah.
I just can't remember which one of those scenes you can actually see Beta Ray Bill
It's
hanging
just like
out.
a background throwaway character.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't even notice it unless you know what you're looking for.
Beta Ray Bill.
Beta Ray Bill. I can pick up Thor's hammer too. Why? Because I'm worthy.
Because I'm
my people.
I'm a fucking badass. That's why. Beta Ray Bill is one of my favorite freaking comic book characters.
Because
that
ginormous cock.
The first time I got introduced to Beta Ray Bill was in the Avengers
Assemble TV show.
Yeah. That was a decent one.
I actually okay. So
there was one before
story time of as far as like Beta Ray Bill goes. One of the ways I actually got into comics was I might have told this story before, but my mom was manager at a Dollar General. This is in Springfield, Missouri, and there's a comic book store right next to it. And so I would go into that comic book store and read comics. The first comic I ever picked up from there was a Thor comic, an old Thor comic, like written by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee.
Nice.
That's some old school shit.
Yeah.
And then Thor and Beta Ray Bill have a competition over the hammer, and Beta Ray Bill actually wins. But I became so enamored with that comic and that character that I ended up getting all the Thor comics I could, and I ended up piecing together most of that story arc, which is the Ragnarok story arc, actually. Because you get Beta Ray Bill's backstory, and it turns out that he was like an alien champion and stuff, and was put in. He was like their planet's equivalent to Superman, really. You could make arguments like, oh, he's Captain America, and then also with Thor's powers, but that's basically Superman.
I'm gonna have to head off. I'll see you later.
All right, and then his airship got attacked by fire demons that worked for Surtur,
Yeah.
and that's how that whole plot line gets introduced. It's a really good run. Anyway, as far as that was a really long tangent. But
That's okay.
I really love that storyline. It's one of the things that really got me into comic books, and particularly Thor and the stuff like Jack Kirby's artwork, because I'm pretty sure it was the first Jack Kirby comic I had ever read. Like I'm trying to think, I read some old Spider-Man comics as a kid, but I'm pretty sure all of those were Steve Ditko. Anyway, so Black Panther and Frozen, like right now I have Rotten Tomatoes pulled up, which Rotten Tomatoes, does not measure the actual quality of a movie at all.
Yeah.
It's just what percentage of critics liked the movie, like at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I liked
yeah. The tomato meter has it at a 97%. The audience
yeah, so
score
2%.
is a 74%.
Hmm. Yeah.
To put that in perspective, The Dark Knight. Let me pull that up because I know The
That's a
Dark Knight
90.
has a 94%. I'm gonna look for
Yeah.
its user rating.
Yeah. I saw the what was it? The Razor Fist video where he talked about that and he was all like, it's like, yeah, it can still be good, but
It's
it's still a
fucking
superhero movie. It's still a superhero movie.
yeah, and I don't think I don't really think Black Panther does anything to elevate that. Okay, Dark Knight actually has a 94% user rating and a 94% critic rating.
Hey, you want to know what I really liked in some of the promo stuff for the Avengers movie or the new one that's coming out is whenever people edited Thanos to look like Homer Simpson.
Huh.
Whenever people edit Thanos to look like anything other than Thanos, it's a good time.
So, oh man, so let me talk to you about something I've been reading. So I have an Amazon. I use the Comixology thing on Amazon, and I pay the money for the Prime Plus good goy version of the game. Oh darn it! The update turned off my LED lights on my motherboard. I'm going to have to remedy that. Um, so I've been reading a lot of like John Carter of Mars.
Oh yeah, John Carter is pretty good.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So have you read any of the John Carter of Mars comic books?
Not really.
Okay.
I've read a bit. I've read a bit of John Carter.
I'm trying to like I don't think so.
So okay. So basically, the plot synopsis is some ex-Confederate
Yeah.
soldier gets teleported to
Yeah,
Mars.
yeah, because this was written in like the
Okay.
1890s.
Oh, really? That's how old it is?
Yes, it
Oh,
is
shit.
super freaking old. I'm
So-
gonna fact check that and give you like a precise year.
So he gets teleported to Mars, and then he's like, "Wow, I'm in Mars." And then he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna jump." And like, "Oh shit, I can jump really high." And then he's like, "I'm gonna punch something." Oh shit, I can punch really hard because like, oh, my low gravity. So he's like really strong in comparison to everyone else.
Nine,
Pretty sure that's not how gravity works,
1911.
but okay.
Keep in mind, 1911 is when this was written. That's why
Okay, so that's why.
that's why the science is all kinds of wonky.
Okay.
And so, literally,
Yeah.
the
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure Mars is actually pretty close to Earth's mass, but yeah, that's
So here's the thing: the female romance interest for the main character literally appears wearing nothing but like a string bikini bottom and then like pasties and a headdress. And like all like basically everyone's walking around like fucking like they're like naked. Like they've got like, you know, the trunks on and then like maybe a cloak and that's about it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm enjoying these comics, but man, I don't want to see anyone reading me this whenever it's just a bunch of random buff dudes half naked talking to each other.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, John Carter is one of the more influential, kind of like a pulp icons, um, of the 20th century. He can't talk today. He inspired like Superman and Star Wars and Dune and Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers,
yeah.
all of them. Um, the problem with the movie that Disney made, is that it was almost like too little, too late. Um, And they
Like the
didn't
iron was hot for it, and they just didn't strike it.
like the iron was hot for it 50 years ago. And like now that we have Star Wars and Star Trek and Doctor Who and all this other stuff, it just was very rudimentary, and as Robert said, like the science not being anywhere near what it is in real life kind of doesn't help it. That and the marketing was just terrible for John Carter. Like, I don't know anybody who actually saw that movie in theaters. Disney really dropped the ball, and they rushed it too. It was so bad. Like they treated John Carter so bad with their marketing that they forgot to put the actual name of the movie on the posters.
Wow. So like
What the
nobody
hell?
cared, huh?
Yeah, well, like during production and stuff, it was called John Carter of Mars because that's the name of the like series. But then, literally last minute, like after the posters had already come out, they decided to just change it to John Carter. Real good move there, guys. Uh, Disney, as much as I love them, their live action department
Wow, there's a
does
video.
not
I
do
can
very
literally
well.
watch the movie right now on YouTube.
Oh goodness.
That's a little
But
bit
yeah,
true.
like that's why like I don't buy the Disney being all powerful thing. I think they think that they're all powerful, but let's face facts. They have several flops every year as well,
Yeah.
particularly in their live action department. Did anybody even realize that there was a Pirates of the Caribbean movie last year?
I saw that
No,
movie. The Jack
I had not.
Sparrow posting? Or
I-
Jack
I-
Sparrow.
I gave up on the Pirates of the Caribbean movies after the second one.
I gave up after the third.
I didn't watch any of them.
I did watch
The
the
first
third.
one's
I did
decent.
I did eventually watch the third and fourth one, and I think the fourth one was kind of a step in the right direction. To be frank, to be perfectly honest, I think the fourth one was a step in the right direction. But I just did not care about the fifth one, and nobody did, and nobody saw it.
Yeah.
Same thing with that Lone Ranger movie they freaking threw together a few years
Oh
back.
yeah, I saw
Oh,
that one.
yeah.
That one was rough. I think Jack Sparrow was casted quite well in that movie though.
I think that was kind of terrible. He was just doing Jack Sparrow again, guys. Johnny Depp is a way better actor than that. Like,
In
but
which movie was he just doing Jack Sparrow again? Was the
Lone Ranger.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
He was basically like really bad red face stereotype version of Jack
Yeah.
Sparrow.
Yeah.
And I like Armie Hammer.
Like how
I
did
just
that
think he does bad
I
movies.
wonder how that even I wonder how that even like got I don't know, how that even like got through the like how that even got on the I don't know.
How
Like
somebody signed off
like
on that.
who signed off on the red face for that? It's all like, blackface
Well,
is not
because
acceptable
well, no, it's
nowadays.
because
Why would red face be?
it's because Johnny Depp is vaguely ethnic, even though he's not at all. Like he could
So they
pass,
thought he could pass, but
and I think he has
still
before.
everyone
I'm pretty sure in the 90s
maybe.
there was a movie where he played a Native American. I might be wrong on that. I might be having Mandela effect like I have been all freaking week with everything. Anyway, goodness. To get back on a little bit of Black Panther. I think the main complaint is that the action is just kind of bad. It's not
Yeah.
it's a great movie. It's just not a good action movie.
Okay.
Which for a genre that has its kind of bread and butter in the action department, um, is kind of like I could certainly see why people would call this mediocre. I can certainly see why a lot of people would not dig Black Panther the same way that they dug the Captain America movies or the Guardians of the Galaxy movies or Thor Ragnarok or even Doctor Strange. Which, by the Doctor Strange has a lot of the same exact issues as Black Panther, and a lot of the same strengths too. The best part of Doctor Strange was when he was studying the magic and they were explaining how it worked and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the writer Robert Carlyle, he has a really good ear for that stuff. And I love the fact that he's having this much success with those kinds of movies because he was my favorite member of the Spill Crew back in the day. That's another thing. The guy who wrote Doctor Strange used to be a film critic. Film critic turned novelist turned screenwriter.
That's a really, I like that combination.
And apparently I have not read his book, but apparently his book is almost like that. That was that was what got him the role for writing Doctor Strange. Well, actually, it was what got his role for writing the first Sinister movie. And the first Sinister movie is what got him the role writing Doctor Strange because it's the same director. I'm blanking on the director's name, but it's the guy who directed the first Sinister movie. Ended up getting the job to direct Doctor Strange. And when he saw the cliff notes and stuff of the script, he was like, "I gotta call up Robert Carlyle for this." and so he did, and the movie was better for it.
Yeah.
Because again, apparently the book he actually wrote and published was very magic heavy and did a lot of world building, explanation how exactly magic worked and stuff. So yeah, I stick by my review. I'm still tempted to give Black Panther an 8 just because where it excelled very, very well. With the world building, the characters, for the most part. I think Michael B. Jordan, fantastic actor, one of the best working today. Did play one of the best Marvel villains yet, and had great performance all around. But the actual writing around his character, I was not liking. I did not dig it.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show that Michael B. Jordan, the fact that anybody is even liking this character is all about the performance Michael B. Jordan gave.
Oh hey,
it was all on he freaking carried that role. Anybody else I could think of, that character would have turned insufferable. Under any other young black actor I could think of. Other than a few that are in the movie already in other parts, the guy from Get Out, he's really good. Chadwick Boseman. Yeah. I think Chiwetel Ejiofor is a great actor. I don't think he could have done a Killmonger though. I think that would have been a complete miscast. And he's already Baron Mordo in Doctor Strange, so couldn't do that either. Which by the way,
Jaden Smith is best Killmonger.
No. I can see Will Smith doing it 20 years ago. But no, Chiwetel Ejiofor, which I'm probably not pronouncing that right. He's the guy from 12 Years a Slave. He was the bounty hunter in Serenity. And he was actually my first pick for playing Black Panther. but they did get, they went with someone younger. Chiwetel Ejiofor is kind of up there, and like I think he's in his 30s or something.
Yeah.
Or Chadwick Boseman is still like young. Like legitimately young. Like young enough that if he were a girl, he could be a maiden in Ruby. Chiwetel Ejiofor is 40.
Wow. He looks good for 40.
And Chadwick Boseman. Oh, wow. Chadwick Boseman is actually older. He is 41, according to Wikipedia.
Gotcha.
Dang.
Well, I mean, like,
By the way, black
I
people
find
are.
myself surprised by a lot
Yeah.
of people's ages nowadays.
Well,
but, yeah.
African Americans don't age until they hit 60. That's a general rule of thumb. Like, living in St. Louis and knowing a lot of people and seeing all these actors and stuff, I don't ever see these guys age until they hit 60. Like, dude, Denzel Washington's been doing movies since the 70s,
Yeah.
and he still looks the same. He's gotta be in his 60s.
We gotta stop. We gotta stop for a second.